somebody that is used to doing stuff late at night. But we found a way to get him to come out here for you guys. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I know it's a little bit later than that. We wanted to make sure Session A got done their stuff. It's now time for the one and the only Night Owl himself, David Dastmalchian!
Good evening, Night Owls.
All right, so for those of you that don't know, David is actually on 2 panels this weekend. He gets to be up here with me today and tomorrow. And so what we're doing with this panel we're going to try to speak mostly about the movie side of what he is. Tomorrow is going to be more about the comics and graphic novels of what he is. So if you have a question when it comes that time, let's try to angle today towards the cinematic side, tomorrow towards the printed page side. So.
Hey. Hi. Hi, guys. This is cool. I really love this. Deej has done an awesome job. This is like, it feels really, I don't know. I already feel like I'm at home. I guess I always do when I'm around my horror family, but like, this is really cool.
So
Thank you, Florida.
Let's give a shout out to Deej real quick.
Shout out
Deej,
to
the show
Deej.
doesn't happen. You guys can do better than that. Give Deej some love. That's right.
This is really special. I really love it. I'm glad I'm here.
I think these people in the audience would say they're glad that you're here too, right, audience? So, Late Night with the Devil.
Yes.
Late 70s talk show, found footage style. What did you do to get yourself into the mode of being a 1970s talk show host?
Dude, it was. I love a good challenge as an actor. I am somebody who feels like every time I get pushed out of my comfort zone and I try something different, whether it's dialect work or body transformation or a different time period, there's all these different things that can really push and challenge you as an actor. And anyone who's here who may be familiar or more familiar with my body of work on film, there has been kind of a consistent, pattern of playing maybe guys who are a little, I don't know, creepy, different, and I'm proud of that. I love those. I've had so many cool roles. I've been so lucky. But in theater, which is where I started, there's a wider, I guess, range of opportunity maybe for different kinds of roles, different kinds of characters. And I always dreamed of being the kind of actor that could step into any role necessary. So it's suburban dad, scout leader that isn't a, cult leader. I would do that. Of course, cult leader is right in my, demographic. But so when I got this opportunity to play a late night talk show host in the 1970s, I was just like, this is so outside of my wheelhouse. And that challenge was so exciting to me. So to prepare for the role, I just started every night when I would get ready for bed, I'd put on YouTube, I'd look up old episodes of old talk shows from the 70s, and I just started making that a regular, almost like when, you listen to people who listen to motivational, inspirational tapes. I just listen to it all the time to get that sound in my head, to get that kind of style in my body. And I listened to tons and watched tons of David Letterman, Conan O'Brien, Johnny Carson, of course, Dick Cavett, a guy named Don Lane, and that was so helpful. It really did. It gave me so many insights to little tricks and ticks and vocal things and stylistic ways of approaching the character, so that by the time we got to filming, I felt comfortable being a talk show host.
right, so I got a question. By show of hands, how many people in here have not seen the movie Late Night with the Devil? Just gonna let you know, we're gonna spoil some things on this panel, so if you haven't seen it, just know there's gonna be some stuff we're gonna talk about.
You're fired. You're fired. Just kidding.
I wasn't trying to put you guys on the
I
spot.
gotta say, I'm honored if this is an honest audience, which I believe you all to be. There was like very few hands that were raised, so I am touched. Thank you to everybody. I mean it. Like, I've been very lucky. I've gotten to be a part of like really big, giant studio movies that have these insane marketing budgets and that have maybe established IP, and that is an honor and privilege for me because so many people are aware of them. But when you make a little tiny movie like Late Night with the Devil, the odds are 99.9% that no one's gonna ever see it. Like, you're so lucky when you make something tiny like that and it just somehow finds a way that this many people could have seen that film. You don't know how much that touches my heart. It makes me so happy. It really does.
Spookala represent, that's right. So the reason why I say that is because when you watch this movie, you're like, is this going to be The Exorcist? What is the vibe going to be? And you're not really sure until about halfway, 3/4 of the way through, what the vibe is going to be. And then when the twist happens in this movie, it is absolutely freaking bonkers, is it not? When you're like, okay, I thought I was watching one thing, and then this thing just goes into complete supernatural insanity. So when you got the script and you saw that that was where it was going to go and it was going to take the turn that it did at the end, were you like, dude, yes, this is going to be amazing? You were like, holy crap, how are we going to pull this off?
Both. I was like, I know it's a small indie, so there isn't a giant budget for making all of these crazy things that are written on the page. How is this going to come to life? But then when I met the filmmakers and I realized that these guys, Colin and Cameron Cairns, who wrote and directed the film, have a little family of filmmakers around them down in Melbourne, Australia, who do incredible, masterful work with set design, props work, practical effects. I'm an old school, like, Fango kid, and I grew up just... For those who don't know my story, I mean, I started in Kansas as a kid, sneaking down and watching the Creature Feature and dreaming of being a special effects makeup artist. That's what I thought I was going to be. So, you know, anybody who's a fan of, you know, people like Joe Bob Briggs or Cremation Mortimer or Sven Gooley, that's my world. And I wanted to make all the makeup effects I used to see in the old Lon Chaney all the way up through today. And so I met the guys, they talked about their approach, they said, we're gonna try and do everything that we could possibly do in camera. We're gonna have, spoiler alert, giant worms shoving their way through people's eye sockets. We're gonna have guts ripped open with buckets of worms coming out of them, and we're gonna do it all on set so you can be there to feel it, smell it, see it. And they did, and it's awesome. When it's a way to... It takes more time, and it's really hard to pull off, because that's why a lot of times bigger studios will just use the magic of CGI effects. But when you have the patience and the time with like artists who can craft this stuff with latex and paint, it's so powerful. And so I was scared, but I was also very excited. And when I saw the twists and how they were working, I thought, what a great gift to me as an actor, because I'm gonna get to play a guy who, for all intents and purposes, has a lot of similarities to me. I'm a guy who sits here on a panel, presenting a version of myself to the world. I'll go in a few weeks to do press for a TV show I'm doing, and I'll be doing red carpets and talking to, you know, media outlets, and it's not that this who's sitting here in front of you guys is like fake. I mean, this is a version of me. This is a part of me, and I love this stuff. But there's this private guy who also has, just like everybody else there, trouble sleeping, trouble with depression sometimes, trouble with anxiety, relationship struggles, family problems. And Jack was this like awesome, representation of the extreme horror version of that. This guy who's on TV, everything, hey, night owls, here we are, da 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 da. And then as soon as the cameras are off, he's losing his shit. I mean, he's really losing it. And I can relate to that push and pull. So to me, when I was reading the script, I was like, this is something I feel like I could really bring a lot of myself to, you know?
So when you guys were filming, one of the things I always find fascinating is how, when you're doing a movie that is so dark, how you handle the child actors that are on set. We talked with Isabel Furman and her having to be 10 years old and being a completely psychopathic, sadistic individual in those movies, and how she would work through that. How did you guys help the younger actress on your set to be able to be in the character when she needed to be there, and be able to snap out of it and be a kid again when she was on the stage?
So let's give a round of applause to Ingrid, who was our amazing Lily. Ingrid Torelli had some experience as an actor. She had done a stage production of Matilda. I think her film and TV experience, though, was very limited before Late Night with the Devil. And you could tell from the first time of rehearsing with her that she was going to do something really special with this character. And because she's young, and because it's her first time doing something of that nature, you really just try to be as supportive, create as fun of it. I mean, I don't care if a person's 15 or 50 or 90, it's so important to create a space where artists feel safe and supported and comfortable, and even sometimes when it's appropriate, trying to bring in a good sense of humor, because the work can be very physically demanding, the hours are demanding, and sometimes it's emotionally demanding to play people going through things like possession or nervous breakdown or whatever. So we just tried to be light and fun, and she was really a pro. She just has that natural thing, and one of my favorite stories about making Late Night with the Devil was, like, I was afraid that poor Ingrid was going to be like freaked out or maybe get scared. And our dressing rooms were lined up next to one another. And one morning I got to work, and it was one of her first days, and I was walking down the hall, and her door was open to her dressing room. So I was just coming in to say, hey, good morning, break a leg today. And she was like in front of the mirror getting ready and doing this psychotic, possessed face, and I could see it in the mirror, and I was like, shit. She scared me, and I'm an old man, and she scared me bad.
So we'll flip that question. How did you handle having to put yourself into such a dark and really intense environment, be able to snap yourself out of that, to be able to just go about your normal day?
I love it so much. I love making horror movies. It's so fun to be, especially when you're on those splatter days where there's blood everywhere and you're screaming and crying, and it can be so cathartic and like as a physical exercise without the emotional component to it. Just physically getting in. How many people get to go to work and physically get an opportunity to expunge so much energy and psychic blockage and do crazy shit for a day? And I would just be really exhausted. And at the end of the day, I would, my family was there with me in Melbourne, so I'd go and get a burger with my kids at, this place that we found that we liked, and I do a lot of gratitude work, man, I'm so grateful to do the job I get to do, to be alive, to be sober, to have friends, and thank you for people who support my work. So that's a huge thing. Whenever I'm feeling overwhelmed or maybe emotionally spent, or I'm just starting to get into negative thinking or whatever, a dark place, starting off with a little mental checkbox of like things to be grateful for today. And they can be small things, like there's this comic that I really love, and this issue just came out, and I know I'm going to get to read that at some point. Gives me something to be grateful for, you know? And there's so much, it's so hard sometimes to be, especially if you're in a dark hole, to see anything worth being grateful for, which is why I think it's really important to have community, and why it's so important to have people that lift you up and support you, as we know more than ever. It's such a time where there's so many loud voices trying to shout down people who are others and people who are different and people who maybe don't fit in. And I think it's really awesome to be a part of a horror community where all of us are welcome. I don't care how you want to be called, who you want to be called, how you want to dress, who you want to kiss, who you want to love. You're welcome here, and you belong.
Absolutely awesome. Okay, so you've done a few movies besides Late Night with the Devil, haven't you? Just a few, right? And I'll tell you, one thing you have coming up that I'm personally looking forward to is One Piece, because I think that the first season of One Piece is one of the best, as a writer myself, one of the best put together seasons of TV, period. So if you haven't seen that, you want to go see it. So is there anything you can tell us about being in One Piece, or your excitement about what's coming up?
I'm so excited. Oh my God, I get to be Mr. Galdino, Mr. 3, if anyone's familiar with the Baroque works. I've been a lifelong comic book collector and lover of comics since I was about 9 years old. I've been a diehard fan of the world of comics. My son, who just turned 11, likes comic books, not as much as I wish he did, but he loves manga and anime, like hardcore. So even though I had some familiarity and I had certain like manga and anime that I liked, growing up, I wasn't diehard like he is. He is one of those people who's read every single One Piece book. He's watched every, episode. He knows all the lore, all the mythology. He has all these strong opinions about the characters. So when they called and said, "Hey, we're from the show One Piece. Have you heard of us?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah. Would you be interested in coming and playing on our show?" I was like, "Oh my God, I'm about to win every cool point I could ever hope to win with my son." And they said, "Mr. 3," and I was like, "Oh my God, he's such a weirdo. This is going to be perfect." This guy who's obsessed with wax and candles and like shoots wax out of his body is like so awesome. So I went to film in South Africa this past year. I got to take my son and my daughter to set. They got to hang out with Mr. 3, like in Little Garden. They got to see my candelabras. It was like, if you're a fan, season 1 of the live action is awesome. Season 2 is going to blow your freaking mind. And I can tell you, like, what Joe is doing with Croc, stupid. You're gonna love it. So, and if you're not familiar, go check out some One Piece. It's a fantastic show, and for those of us like myself who have kids, it's a perfect show to watch as a family because it's progressive and it's subversive and it's very dark, but it's just perfect enough that like all ages can watch it and get something out of it,
So I've got a lot of other questions that I can ask about other movies that he's been in, but for the sake of making sure that we keep the panel on time and not back up his next session, the reason we started late was because we had his first session running. We want to make sure his second session gets started on time. I'm going to open up the mic, but we're going to do the same thing that we did during the last panel. Steph, who is dressed like me, except go on up here, Steph. She's dressed like me, except she's 1/3 my size. Steph is going to be out here with the mic, and either she's going to pick somebody or David or myself are going to pick somebody, and she's going to walk over there. You get one question, and let's try to make sure that we are quick with it and it's not conversation aspirational so that way other people have a chance to be able to. Hey, Steph, over here we got the.
Okay, I was gonna say
I
you
gotta say
should
right
pick.
See over here.
Because they won't be mean to you.
Listen, right here you got the guy with the amazing tracksuit. That tracksuit is amazing and like just completely. We gotta go with him. Oh man, he was like the wingman out there.
My awesome manager over here.
What's your name? Say real loud for us.
My name is Michael. Hi, nice to see you. You're the whole reason I'm here. You're awesome.
Hi, it's great to see you. And I see, are you dressed as Rick Flag?
Yes, I am.
Oh, good job.
So I wanted to ask, how was your experience working on Gotham when you did that? The TV
My
show
experience working on Gotham.
Yes.
Did anybody, who's a Gotham fan here? Yes. Gotham was really a turning point for me. It was such an awesome experience. I had been in The Dark Knight at that point, and I didn't know if I would get an opportunity to do more superhero related stuff because it's so important to me, and comic book properties brought to film or TV are so important to me. And I did, when I got cast in Ant-Man, I was like, oh my gosh. So now I've done DC. Now I'm doing Marvel. And I am, like, by the way, old school West Coast Avengers fan here. So that's how, like, as a kid, I got into, like, Hank Pym, learned about Ant-Man. It was like, I get to be a sidekick to Ant-Man. Then I get this call that, and I had auditioned for Gotham, especially like early on in my career when I first got to LA, when the show was first starting. I remember I auditioned a couple times for Gotham, for The Flash, a couple things, and I never booked him, but the casting directors always said, like, you're great, we're gonna find the right thing for you, whatever. So when they said, they wanted me to play Dwight Pollard, I was like, ooh, what does he do? I'm like, oh, he is like one of the acolytes of Jerome. And I knew Jerome Cameron was doing such a great job bringing the Joker to life in that world. Yes, give a hand of applause for Cameron Monaghan as Jerome. We are all Jerome. That was one of my favorite lines I got to say. And then as a tribute to one of the great arcs in the Batman comic book series, I got to cut off the Joker's face and wear it. I mean, how cool was that? Of course, he ended up getting it back, and that hurt a little bit. It was a great experience. I've been so lucky. I mean, it's like, I feel like I won the nerd lottery like 16 times so far in my career. Talking about film and TV, going from The Dark Knight, getting to be a part of the MCU with the Ant-Man franchise, getting to play two characters in the MCU with both Kurt and Veb, then doing Dwight in Gotham, playing, oh my gosh, Abracadabra in The Flash, then getting to jump over to, we've got our own polka dot man here. Stand up, where is he? We've got a polka dot man right here in the audience. Beautiful gauntlets and everything. In the voiceover world, I've gotten to play Mr. Freeze, The Flash, the Penguin. I got to do Calendar Man. I'm like, it's wild. I feel like I just hit jackpot on the scratch off like so many times. It's weird, but I'm very grateful.
All right, good stuff. So, Steph, how about you come all the way up here, front row, right here. Let's get her to get a question.
Keep your hand up.
Hi, thanks. I'm Pepper. So, you have affectionately referred to yourself
Move just a little bit closer to the mic. There you go.
You have affectionately referred to yourself as a monster. So my question was, what classic Universal monster would you be interested in having a hand in?
What classic Universal monster would I want to be? First first of all, and we'll talk about this tomorrow. Who's coming tomorrow, by the way? Who's going to be at the convention tomorrow? We're going to do another panel tomorrow. We'll talk about comic books and creation. Because I write a series called Count Crowley, Reluctant Midnight Monster Hunter. And I've got a bunch of new monster series coming in the comic book space. And I'm really proud of what we got to do with Creature Commandos at DC. That was really fun. In that space, I get to explore one of my favorite themes in life, which is that we're all monsters. And that the world is populated with monsters, good monsters and bad monsters. And we have to ally and stand up and protect the good monsters, and then we gotta all fight against the bad monsters. And sometimes bad monsters aren't necessarily people, they're ideas, concepts, struggles, but the one, there's two classic universal monsters that if I got to have my pick, I would put them on either side of a coin and I would flip it, and whatever it landed on, I would take it gratefully. Although I would play any. You put me in wraps, I'll be the mummy. You put me in the water, I'll be the creature. You name it. But if I had my choice, both for the practical effect, transformation, makeup, and because I think I could relate to the character and the struggles that I faced with mental illness and addiction. And I think so much of the classic Lon Chaney Jr. performance and how sympathetic that was, I would love to take a stab at the Wolfman. And then the other one, which is really ironic and funny, I've been in, at this point, a number of projects that involve this kind of character, and I'm always fighting him. But I think it's weird that I haven't yet gotten to play him. I would love to play a vampire. I would love to be Dracula. So we'll see. Maybe at some point in my dream of following the Christopher Lee path, I could play Dracula and maybe a little Dooku as well. We'll see.
Maybe do a metal album at 95 years old?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right, raise your hands again. Let's see what you got. Steph, come on down and right in the middle aisle, and then we're going to move to the outsides.
Who?
Right there, right beside you.
The creepy clown? Okay.
No, the guy that's right here beside you.
Guy.
There you go, right there.
Hello. So my question for you is, you've stepped into many roles that have these characters that have these more subtly sinister backgrounds. So I wanted to ask you, out of your creative process, what is the most important thing that you do to step in these kind of roles to maintain that kind of subtle sinisterness that especially Jack has?
Really important part of the process, and anybody who, it's funny, I'll get people sometimes asking me, like, what advice do you have for actors? And I wish I had any professional advice worth anything. It's just such a weird, unique path, other than, like, don't give up, like, keep going. Because the way people find their way to doing it as either a hobby or as a living is so specific to the individual. There's no two paths that are the same, but the one thing that is the same for everybody, and I think if you're a actor or a director or a writer or an auto mechanic or a school teacher or whatever it is that you do, no matter what paths we choose or are sometimes chosen for us by fate in life to do to work, whether it's something you love and is your passion or is something that you do as a means to an end, it always takes something out of our jar, you know? Like your jar just is gonna inevitably spill a little bit throughout the day. And I think about when I first started acting, and the way that I would refill my jar was usually through substances, and it actually didn't refill my jar. It drained it even more until I was like running on empty. And so I find for me, like, having really good like mental health practice, which includes like daily gratitude lists, like we were saying. I do like support group 12-step stuff, whatever kind of therapy you can find for yourself, whether it's online, in person, through books, and just taking care of yourself, whatever that means, whatever that looks like. So I do that for myself. I try to. I'm not perfect. I screw up often, but I try to tend to that stuff because life's hard. And even when you have the coolest job in the world, which I do, never want to complain at all. But there are times when it's hard. Like there's times when I'm like, I feel like crap. And I'm so lucky. And find the people to surround yourself with. I don't care what you do. Find the people to surround yourself with who genuinely support and love and want to lift you up. That's so vital. We're so lucky when we find our fellow monsters in this world who have our backs and are there for us, and then give back to them, find ways to do that for them. It's the best.
That's awesome. Okay, raise your hands again here. Let's see here. So let's go out here on the edge, Steph, trying to find somebody to the far side. So she's got the black shirt, the black rimmed glasses on. Yep, you know.
Keep your hand up for
Keep
me,
your hand up, there you
please.
go.
I'm sure
Yeah, that's
I
right.
can
Raise the
see.
roof, throw your hands in the air, wave them like you just don't care, all that fun
Perfect.
stuff.
Okay, right here.
It's for my dad. Is that okay if I pass it?
Yeah,
Hey,
pass it on down.
Yeah, it's a group thing, whatever.
Sorry,
As long as there's a
everybody.
question that comes, it's all good.
This dude, good. I wanted to hear from you. You seem very excited. It's awesome to see you. He's got one of the coolest shirts I've seen. You want to stand up and let everybody see that shirt? Yeah. Are those for sale here? All the way under the flag, right? The guys under the flag have those late night shirts. I've seen some cool Late Night with the Devil merchandise. There was this really great artist who had a lamp, and she sold it already, and somebody's bringing it to get it in the photo op. So anyway, keep your eyes out for the late night merch. Sorry, go ahead, sir. What's your question?
Best daughter ever, by the way. First off, kudos, much deserved leading role in Late Night with the Devil.
Thank you.
Hope to see many more.
Thank you.
Insane writer across many mediums, actor across many mediums.
Thank you.
Any plans or the itch to direct it all?
Well, it's interesting that you may ask that. It hasn't been announced yet.
Until right now, on
But-
the stage.
I can't give all the details yet, but I will say that my partner, I've written a number of one-shot comic books with Leah Kilpatrick, who's actually here at the convention right now. We did the DC Horror Presents story about Dollhouse. We've done 2 Headless Horseman comics. We've got 2 brand new series that are coming soon, but Leah and our friend Jenny had written a piece that I really liked, and with the support of the Boulets brothers. I don't know, who's a fan of the Boulets? There is a very good likelihood that soon I will be dipping my toe into attempting to direct something very small. I'm going to be very... I'm already nervous enough about, I would be nervous about directing a 30-second anything. So this is, it's small, but it's big to me. And I'm very proud of it, and I'm excited, and we'll have more info soon. But needless to say, reading the room, I feel like it's something everybody here is gonna really fucking dig. So I'm very excited.
I think he's read the Spookala crowd well, right?
Yeah.
All right, so
Who
Steph,
likes big hairy monsters? I'm a big hairy.
second from the end there. There you go.
Hi.
Hi, Wednesday. How's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm fantastic.
So, I was just wondering, you spoke about the Boulets. I was just kind of wondering how that judging kind of came about and meeting up with the Boulets and what that experience was about, watching all that monstrous drag.
The Boulet brothers are just some of the most incredible artists on the scene right now. They are drag horror icons, and their show Dragula on Shudder was, for me, like a comfort show. Every night I would watch Dragula, I'd rewatch old episodes, and I was just a big fan starting in the beginning of the show. So maybe it was like season 3. When I'd watch new episodes, I used to have Twitter before it, whatever, and so I would like tweet along to episodes, or I would like tag stuff on Instagram, and they realized that I was a fan, and they were aware of my work and liked my work, and so through Phil Nobile Jr., who is the editor of Fangoria magazine, who knew both of us, a connection was made, and when the Boulets reached out and said, "Hi, this is the Boulets. Would you ever be interested in being a judge on Dragula?" I like fainted. I was so excited. I freaked out, man. And so I went to judge, and we immediately hit it off. Like as soon as we started talking and hanging out, we hit it off. So then I invited them I host a little Coven of Witches game night in my living room. And so I said, would you ever be interested in doing some gaming? And they showed up, and the friendship was born. That they're two of my closest friends, and I love them so much, and they support my art, I support their art. We love making stuff together. They're very important to me, and they are good monsters, and I love their show, and I can't wait because we've got a Titan season coming up. We've got a lot of good stuff coming up for them. I'm very excited.
All right, so to keep the panel on track, I know that you have another session that starts at 3 o'clock,
do.
right? So we don't want to make sure that that goes long, so we're going to have one more question here, and if your question doesn't get asked, obviously you've had like 74 arms that have been raised. Obviously we're not going to get there. It's nothing against any specific person, but if you don't get them asked, make sure you go back to his table, or make sure you're at the panel tomorrow, and maybe you'll get lucky then. All right, so Steph, right up here is third row. I feel like out of all the people in the audience, if this person doesn't get get their question asked, this is the one that's going to have the most.
This one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi.
She seems like the one that needs the question answered.
She's very excited.
Yes.
Hello. Okay, great. Okay, so you mentioned indie horror being tricky to find for an audience, and for someone who wants to learn how to dig deep, find those indie horror movies, get to know the small budget, small time, but big in ideas and creativity, where would you look for things like that?
I highly recommend going. It's for $4.99 a month. You can become a member of the Shudder community. On Shudder, the curation of films, be it giallo, classic Italian horror, be it gonzo weird Latin American horror from the 70s and 80s, if it's crazy American grindhouse horror, they have such an incredible curated library of films. It's not just contemporary, new, splashy studio stuff. It's everything in between. And then what I recommend you do is find the stuff that you gravitate towards, that means something to you, and then go find that filmmaker's filmography and support them. There's so many talented artists of the past whose work isn't being recognized, and of today. There's so many great splatterpunk and indie drama horror artists. I mean, there's a spectrum now of horror that we're able to see, ranging in everything from the Terrifier series to films like The Night House, where you can go to micro indie dramas that are horror in nature, to big serial killer. I mean, it's such a wonderful time to be a horror nerd. Yeah.
All right, so we've reached the end of the panel, but you guys know we got one thing to do before he leaves the stage, right? That's right, the show photographer's name is Corey, and we have to summon Corey to the stage.
Corey?
So that we can...
How do we summon Corey?
How do we summon Corey? On the count of 3, with our scariest voices ever, we have to summon him. 1, 2, 3. Corey! Oh, it's late night with the Corey. All right, so what's going to happen is we're going to get you a big round of applause. You and I are going to go around the front side of the table, and he's going to take a picture with all of these happy faces.
Awesome.
All right, so one last big round of applause for the one, the only, David Dastmalchian. Dastmalchian!